Raw and SmackDown Live reviews for July 17th and 18th. Both shows were a little bit underwhelming this week. There were some high points, some low points. I don't think either of them really met the neutral standings of a 5 out of 10 rating. I think they both were a little bit under that this week. Maybe SmackDown gets maybe a 5. SmackDown, I do think, was a little bit better of a show than Raw, but neither of them were anywhere near the caliber that they should be with the talent they have on their roster. So, Monday Night Raw opens here with Dean Ambrose. He comes out with a steel chair. I forget what he named the steel chair. He named it something. He brought the steel chair out, and then he started talking about meaningless crap about the Miz, Taraj, and Rollins. And then Seth Rollins would come out and says that he wants to know if Ambrose is either with him or is he against him in this fight against the Miz, Taraj. Dean Ambrose is a little hesitant there. And this is where Seth Rollins says to Ambrose, "Brother, are you with me or are you against me?" Ambrose would get upset a little bit, and he'd say that the brothers he knew were in the Shield. Good to see them reminiscing on this, going back, not forgetting about their roots. Then Rollins says that he's sorry. He's meant to say it, but he just never got around to it. He's sorry. And if Ambrose doesn't believe him, he can use the chair that he has in his hands to hit him however many times he wishes. As Seth Rollins would turn around, Ambrose then hesitated, threw the chair outside the ring, had a little stare down for a second with Rollins. Then the Miz, Taraj would come on down. The Miz would narrate about what was happening in the ring, saying how they were former allies turned enemies, doing all this talk. And then that would lead the Miz, Taraj to attack Seth and Dean with chairs. The crowd was chanting for Roman. This actually would have been a perfect chance to maybe get Roman over with the fans again. But I understand he was in the main event. It was already predetermined Roman was going to be in the main event. But they could have saved this segment to whenever Roman is out of the main event picture. And that would have been a perfect way to book the Shield back together. I wouldn't have the Shield fight the Miz, Taraj necessarily. But it makes sense for Roman Reigns if he would have came out. Anyways, it set up a 2-on-3 handicap match for next week between the Miz, Taraj, Seth, and Dean Ambrose. Also, I haven't been hearing a lot of reports on this. Actually, I don't think I've seen anybody report this, but I'm going to be the first one to throw this out there. Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, alright, they're lingering in mid-card title picture. Now, I've heard some people throw Bray Wyatt into maybe getting a SummerSlam match, but now we know he's probably heading Balor. So what we got here is Seth Rollins doesn't have a match going into SummerSlam, which Seth Rollins is one of those big-name guys. You need to have a match on the card. Whether it be a big match or whether it be one of those smaller matches on the card, you gotta find a way. You have to find a way to get Seth Rollins on the show, at least for a little bit of a segment. That being said, I could very easily see them going the option of a triple threat match between Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Miz for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, I haven't heard too many rumors or speculations on whether that could be the direction they're heading, but to me, that seems like the way they usually, if it was booked this way, this would be the way they would be heading, which means that we're going to have yet another multi-person match on the SummerSlam card for Monday Night Raw side of things. We also have more speculation on my half in a little bit when it comes to the women's division also. With Bliss and Bayley having a match, it was a decent little match here. Nia Jax came down to be at ringside for Alexa Bliss to possibly protect her, to convince her to give her a future title shot. Sasha would then eventually come down to take Nia Jax out, that leading Bayley to have a roll-up pin that would fail this time. Bliss would kick out. Bliss would stand up. Bayley would hit the Bayley to belly for the win, and that sets up Bayley and Banks next week. Winner goes to SummerSlam. Now, I understand why they did it, because Banks has her rematch she should get. Bayley's been winning. But why exactly are they doing it now between them? It doesn't make sense to have Banks win against Bayley. It doesn't make sense to have Bayley beat Banks. They're best friends. I understand they did the same thing with Charlotte and Becky on SmackDown. But it doesn't make sense to have either one win. So that's an option where you have the same thing you have in the Universal title picture. You have Nia Jax this time interrupt their match. So Nia Jax finds a way onto the SummerSlam card along with Bayley and Sasha Banks to fight for the Women's Championship over there on Monday Night Raw. That's what I think is probably going to happen. Most likely. Then we have Balor versus Elias Sampson here. Balor was taking Sampson to the verge of defeat for a little bit. Sampson and Balor would go to the outside of the ring here. Sampson was failing to put Balor out of it. So Sampson, like a smart man, he sees his guitar over there lingering, and he grabs a hold of it, and he hits a brutal shot. Straight up brutal shot on Finn Balor, leaving a huge gash on the back of Finn Balor's head here. Right on the back of the head. It was brutal. Somebody messed up there. I don't know if it was Balor not turning around or if it was Sampson going too hard or swinging too high or something. But somebody messed up, because that gash did not look good at all for Finn Balor. That was terrible. They're gonna end up having the blow-off match next week on on Monday Night Raw with the no DQ match. But after the match, when Balor was limping away from the match because of his injury to the back of the head, Bray Wyatt would come on the screen and he cut a little bit of a promo here. He said some meaningless garbage crap. Nobody likes to hear it anymore. He says the same thing week in, week out. Bray Wyatt, you're irrelevant now, man. You know what, man? Just go back, man, to being Husky Harris, man. You weren't anything now. You weren't anything as Husky Harris either. I'm not gonna say you were. But he tries to cut some crap on Balor. I imagine it's gonna be there for SummerSlam. Then we had the big reveal. The big thing that is going to ruin Kurt Angle's life is he had a son in college. We all know that Jason Jordan's not your son. Look at Jason Jordan and look at Kurt Angle. At a first look, I mean, their faces and their hairstyles are similar, but if you get a better look at Jason Jordan and Kurt Angle, you know that they're definitely not related. Jason Jordan's way taller than Kurt Angle, first off. Second off, we already seen Jason Jordan's father and mother at when they won the tag titles over there on SmackDown Live against Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. So we all know that. But the whole thing makes no sense now. Something that was gonna ruin your career. It was gonna ruin your family's life. You have another son? Why do we care? That's not going to ruin your career. Yeah, nobody's going to care. Okay, so what? You did something so bad. And then Graves is over here talking about how Jordan's been telling him all this, and he's been in contact with Kurt and him. Nobody cares. What? I don't understand how Corey Graves got into this story. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Then we had the Hardy Boys versus the Revival. This match didn't really do much for me. The Revival got one up on the Hardys here. A little bit of trickery here where I don't remember who it was. Scott Dawson, Dash Wilder. He shoved Jeff Hardy off the top, and then they ended up hitting a Shatter Machine for the victory. The thing I want to know is the Hardys been getting a lot of losses lately, haven't they? They lost to the Club. They've been losing to Shimaro. And now the Revival's on that list of teams they've lost to. You think they might be going to that little place inside, right? Might be going a little bit broken, if you will. So that's something to look out for on the Hardy side. Will that be before SummerSlam? Who's going to fight Shimaro at SummerSlam? Is it going to be the Revival? I don't think so. What are you going to do? Turn Shimaro back face? Revival aren't turning face. Club aren't set up to turn face yet. I mean, the only face team you got right now is the Hardys. And if they go broken, I could very well see them having a rematch and regaining the tag team gold there on Monday Night Raw. Then we have 205 Live. We had 2 matches on from 205 Live on Monday Night Raw. Neither of them did much for me. I didn't care. And quite frankly, the crowd didn't care either. The crowd didn't care about most of the show anyway, so what's the deal? Nashville, Tennessee, you were not a good crowd, man. You didn't hype up anything. Then we had Jack Gallagher and Mustafa Ali teaming against Brian Kendrick and Drew Gulak. Who cares? Who really cares? Gallagher and Mustafa Ali got the victory over the heels. Nobody cares. Apparently, I don't watch 205 Live very much. Apparently, Brian Kendrick's been dressing up as Gallagher and making fun of him, saying he's a clown and all this crap. Nobody cares, really. Nobody cares. We had Aria Daivari and Akira Tozawa had a match here. Daivari would end up working over the shoulder of Akira Tozawa to the point where Titus had to throw in the little flag, man. Titus got up on the ropes and he was like, "No, stop it. Stop this match." And he said he was investing in the future of Akira Tozawa. He's thinking about when he fights for the Cruiserweight title. He's thinking about what's in store for Tozawa, not just what's now. Tozawa said that he never quits. And this led to a pretty good main event. I saw it coming from a mile away. Everybody saw it coming from a mile away, though. Joe and Reigns had a pretty hard-hitting match until Braun Strowman showed up. He ended up showing up. He ended up making it a no-contact contest, taking out both Roman and Samoa Joe. Now, the only way that they can book this now is a fatal 4-way. There's no way you can make me believe that only Reigns deserves a shot, only Joe deserves a shot, or only Strowman deserves a shot. All 4 of these guys deserve to be in the picture at SummerSlam just on the way they're booked. There's no other option now. It has to be a fatal 4-way. Therefore, on Monday Night Raw, you got one match that's definitely going to be a fatal 4-way, or at least should. You got the women's match that looks like it might be a fatal 4-way. And then you got possibly the Intercontinental match that might be a triple threat. So that's all their titles being multi-person matches. So I want to know, where's the singles matches? Where's the match that we get Seth Rollins versus The Miz? Where's the crazy matches that we deserve at a SummerSlam? Where are those, man? Where are those? They're just falling off the earth. Next, we got the SmackDown Live Review. Show opened off with Jinder Mahal coming on out inside the Punjabi prison. He had the Singh brothers go over the rules of the match. How you have to escape both cages. And you can't pin, you can't submit. There's no countouts. There's no giving up. There's no rules. And then Orton would come on out. He'd climb. He would scale the structure here. And he'd claim that once Sunday arrives, he'll be sitting atop that structure looking down at the jacked up Mahal. So none of this built towards the Punjabi prison. None of this did anything towards the match. Nobody threw down in there. Nothing happened. They just cut basic promos. They could have left the cage off the show. I mean, if all they were going to do was just have them cut a promo, you didn't need that. It wasn't relevant. I mean, come on, man. Come on. It was just an exchange of words. It was basic promo crap. We didn't get to see anything built toward the actuality of how brutal this structure is, since it's so brutal, JBL. Really brutal. I mean, you had Great Khali freaking halfway down the cage, taking his slow time, and you have Batista on the first cage, jumping from the other structure and falling to the ground and winning, because apparently you can do that. Man, I don't understand Punjabi prison, man. I don't. Then we got Jimmy Uso versus Kofi Kingston here. Lackluster match. Didn't do much for me either here. Typical 50-50 booking, given the Usos another victory to add to their little title run here against the New Day. At this point, I don't know if the Usos retain at Battleground. I really don't. I mean, I could see why they would. Could also see why they wouldn't. But if you want to keep this feud going, I would have the Usos somehow cheat at Battleground, get another victory over the New Day, and then you could have some weird stipulation match at SummerSlam, like maybe a Hell in a Cell, or I don't know what you got, and I don't know what you could do. Maybe a I Quit match, tag team style elimination. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there because the Usos and the New Day, I mean, you know, at the end of this, the New Day's going to win. And I imagine they won it at SummerSlam, so I'm just trying to think of a gimmick match that they could do. Then we had the in-ring debut of Mike Kanellis here. Thought they were going to save it for the pay-per-view, but I guessed wrong. We ended up having Sami Zayn lose to Mike Kanellis. Not clean, though, so I imagine they're going to end up having a rematch on the pay-per-view. Maria ended up jumping in to stop Sami Zayn from attacking Kanellis anymore because Sami Zayn was getting the better of Mike Kanellis. That led Mike Kanellis to hit a beautiful Samoan driver onto Sami Zayn for the victory there. So Mike Kanellis booked to win his first match. A little cheat fashion, but you know what? They're building up a star, I guess. Then we had a backstage segment with the women of SmackDown Live, where they each took shots at Lana. But Tamina was like, you know what? Nobody's going to fight Lana tonight. First off, I want to ask, who gave the bright idea to let Tamina keep on talking? She already failed talking once. She said the exact same line Charlotte said for Ellsworth, I'm going to make you look like Ellsworth. And then she said, if you don't shut up, you're going to look like Ellsworth. What? You don't deserve to talk, Tamina, please. Stick to the in-ring work. You're not even that phenomenal doing that. Natty then suggests that Becky and Charlotte should have a match. It was a pay-per-view quality match that was on free television. Becky would end up picking up the win during this match with the disarmor. Charlotte was going to try to get out of it, but Becky kept locking it in, and that eventually led Charlotte to tap out to the disarmor. So there's no way Charlotte doesn't win at Battleground, right? There's no way. Tamina's not winning. I doubt Lana wins. If Lana wins, it has to be a cheap victory where Tamina does all the dirty work and Lana gets the victory. But that makes no sense for Tamina. Natty. Now, I put this in my fantasy booking for WrestleMania 34. I would actually have Natty win this match. I would have Natalya win this match. I would have Naomi at SummerSlam. I would have Natalya close to making Naomi tap out at SummerSlam. Carmella cashes in, hits Natty with the briefcase, and then ends up picking the pieces of Naomi and becoming the champion. That's what I would do. I wouldn't put Charlotte here. I wouldn't put Becky here. I wouldn't put Lana, Tamina. I would actually have Natty win this. And you're going to get that video tomorrow on my fantasy booking for WrestleMania 34. And I came up with that idea. It's kind of funny on why I came up with it too, but you'll get to know the full story about what that leads into WrestleMania 34 tomorrow. Anyways, next we had Chad Gable being interviewed about Jason Jordan being Kurt Angle's illegitimate son. He says Jordan's been acting different while they've been on the road, and he said that Jason Jordan called him after last night to explain everything. And Gable says he supports Jordan in his future endeavors, and he also has plans for his own future. So we didn't get much from Jason Jordan talking on the night before, and we didn't get much from Chad Gable the night after. So it could be a good spot for SmackDown's Talking Smack, Vince. Come on, man. That would have been a perfect opportunity. Perfect. We had Cena come out promoting his flag match against Rusev at the pay-per-view. And, man, it didn't do anything for me, man. It really didn't. It pretty much mapped out the entire match at Battleground. We got Cena here being Mr. America, cutting out how he's all for America. I mean, he did a good job promoting it. I'm not going to take anything from Cena. It was just booked bad. But they got to think we're stupid not to realize that at the end of the show, or at the end of this segment, we had Rusev waving around the Bulgarian flag. And how would we not see Mr. America beating the big anti-American heel in a flag match? I would have saved this. I would have saved it. And for the last one, we had Owens and Corbin versus Nakamura and AJ Styles. Earlier in the night, we had AJ asking Nakamura on their game plan. He said, you know what, we don't need one. We didn't have one last time. Nakamura says, you know what, one day you're going to call, and I'm going to answer for your United States title. They might be pushing that match up to SummerSlam. Please. That's WrestleMania 34 caliber. Please. Don't do it. 4 weeks is not enough. You need at least 2 months. But in typical basic formulaic fashion here, we had the stars of the show, basically the biggest thing we got on the show here at the moment. We have the 2 biggest heels at the moment and the 2 biggest faces at the moment. We had the baby faces gaining momentum towards the end of the match, where it would all be taken away by one Kevin Owens with a huge super kick on to AJ Styles after Styles reversed the end of days. Haven't seen that. That was an interesting moment. That ended up leaving Owens and Corbin to be victorious heading into Battleground. So, that's your SmackDown Live and Raw reviews for this week.